Guys, one of our favorite games is getting some pretty significant changes. We're talking about Rainbow Six Siege, the second season in Year 6, NorthStar. Let's get into it because there's a bunch of changes happening. So I got a little press release here I want to read off to you before we even get started. So everybody's on the same page. We know where we're coming from, right? In NorthStar, players will discover a brand new defender, Thunderbird. She can deploy a Kona healing station, which heals any player, ally, or enemy. So you got two sides, right? You can either the good guys or the bad guys, attackers, defenders. Anybody can get healed in this one. We can talk about her ability. I think is the biggest thing. Her guns are the Spear 308 or the Spaz 15 as her primary. Secondary, you get the Bearing 9 or the Q929 as your secondary weapon. Overall thoughts on the operator alone, guys?
Go ahead,
Well,
Nate.
I'll start off, I guess. I actually really like that primary weapon. It's my favorite primary weapon in the game. Finka's the only one that's had that, so
Yeah,
it's good.
it's cool
I like
seeing that gun brought back. Yeah, it's cool. But the ability, man, this sounds cool. You know, we were well overdue for another healer class.
Yes.
And I think it's not really overpowered in any situation because the opposing team can use that ability still. So I don't know, guys. What do you guys think?
Well,
what do you think, Corey?
man, it's one of those things, right? Like you said, we've kind of been looking for another healer. I mean, Doc is slow. Let's get real.
Yeah.
Doc is slow. He can heal
Sure.
both enemies and allies. He can shoot the enemies with his gun and heal them. It's not something we tend to do more often than not, like unless you're trolling.
Yeah.
But being able to know that the enemy can come in and heal themselves after some sort of exchange is going to really lay into how strategic you have to be with this operator, right? And this ability. I don't know how much information we got on it. Is it bulletproof? Do you have to melee destroy it? Can you shoot to destroy it?
I think you can shoot it.
Yeah, so that lightens the load a little bit more, right? So you have to be more strategic as that operator to place it in the room in certain spots. You know, maybe you plan with your team that this area that's not even near the objective rooms will have one of these things, so you can go and heal up, you know, through, you know, different firefights and gunfights and things like that. So I don't know, man. It's a cool ability to have. I think it's nice to have another operator that's going to heal your team and heal possibly everybody. Could make these matches go on for a little bit longer, or at least have more people in the end game of these matches, the last seconds counting down.
Sure.
It'd be kind of interesting to see going forward what we're going to get with this.
So she's a low armor with a high speed. So I'm low armor thinking 1 armor, right? High speed being 3. So we'll see how that plays. But I'm thinking already, right? If you get in the tower over in Oregon, and if you guard the one tower, she could drop one of her Kona healing stations right there, and you can guard the tower. You get tagged, okay, you move over, right? Yeah. So it's got a 2-meter radius on this thing, so you have plenty of room to work with. So and if you're downed, you can get healed with that as well, so you're still not out.
Yeah,
so
that's pretty cool.
It does have some unique plays coming into effect, I think, with her new stature. We definitely, like you said, Nate, it's been a long time that we haven't had a healer, so it's nice to see somebody else step into that role because it's been so long. And I kind of thought maybe we'll be seeing something here shortly, and it was nice to see. Well, they're also doing a rework on the Favela map. To me, it's not in like our usual ranked, so I'm really not going to play it, to be honest.
No.
But they are reworking it. They're going to make it a lot more readability, they said, is what their words are, so that way you can distinguish what rooms are what rooms. That's the biggest thing, because right now you go in there and everything's all the same.
That game's kind of, or not that game, but that map's kind of a hot mess. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. When we used to play quick play, I was like, oh, it's Favela.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay.
Tough
And
stuff.
all it is blown open walls everywhere, and it's just a chaotic mess because everything's like green.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
I am happy to see that, but like you said, Drew, we're mostly ranked play now, so.
Yeah, at
Don't
this
see it
point.
very often.
Yeah, I shouldn't say never. I'm there once in a while just because I only have a few minutes, so I don't want to get into a full ranked match because that's the last thing I want to
They're
do
an
is
hour.
you bail on those, right? But now let's get into what's happening over in the world of test servers, because that's where a lot of this stuff is going to play out first, get implemented, and then if everything goes well, then gets into the base game. But 2 new features will be tested. You ready for this? A revamped armor system and activities after death. So the revamped armor system, if you are a 1 armor, then you get 100 HP. If you're a 2 armor, you get 110. And if you are a 3 armor, you get 125. Now, you also toss in the mix of Rook, you drop a vest, now you're at 145 if you're a 3 armor. Thoughts on that portion, and then we'll get into activities after death that I'm not too happy about.
Well, Corey, I'm not exactly familiar with Rook's ability. Was it just that it stopped a bullet hitting your chest before? Is that kind of...
Yeah, essentially it was just an armor plate that basically gave you 1 or 2, I think it was 1 or 2 free shots before it broke into your actual HP.
Yeah. So I think this is not huge. This isn't a huge change like the other one that we'll touch up on right after this.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. It's a little more clarity in the different roles with a 1 speed, a 2 speed, and now a 3 speed.
Yeah, you've got
sense.
these guys, right? You've got these three armor operators. They're supposed to feel like tanks because they certainly move like tanks in the game, right? They're sluggish compared to a 1-speed operator or even a 2-speed.
Sure.
So having a little extra ammo so you can maybe take 1 or 2 more shots before you deke into that room, I think is fair because honestly, if you get caught, and you're a 3 armor operator, you're gonna have a tough time getting out of certain situations. So being able to take a few more shots, I think, is gonna balance this out a little bit better, make these firefights maybe a little more fair. And honestly, like we talked about this earlier off cameras, a headshot's still a headshot.
Well,
so.
that's just it. Yeah, that's where I was heading next, Corey. You took it from me. Absolutely.
Sorry, buddy.
No, it's fine. As long as the headshot is still a headshot, then okay, right? Because that's where you should be going for in the first place. But you know how often we tag the body first? All the time. But now with those 3-speed operators and being one of my favorite being Cade, I have a little bit more longevity in my life cycle, I would think, when it comes into that. But let's get into the next thing. Is the activities after death. I'm not sure how I feel about this one because attackers can now, when down, still activate and control their drones. Or if you're on the defending side, right, if you're an Echo or a Mozzie or Maestro, the Evil Eye is still in play. So now you're looking to take out everything possible. Mira too, so now they also implemented glass clashing. Well, I'll call it clashing. It's like shattered glass.
Yeah.
Basically, when you walk up to Mira's window, and if you're an attacker, you smash that thing. It doesn't bust, but it puts like a shattered effect across it and blinds the defender's side. So no longer can you see through it. Which, that one I don't really think I'm too fond of either. We'll see how it plays out. I think it's an interesting mechanic to play with, but I'm not 100% sure that I like that ability. That window's there for a purpose. Yeah. And the fact that you can smash it once, it puts up that, like, now, mind you, the attacker does have to get to that portion of your thing,
That's kind
right?
of the draw to that, right? Like,
yeah.
You're pretty risky going up close to that mirror with an exposed wall beside you because you're just gunning them down, right?
Often.
So I think that's actually a pretty good turn, man. But the other
drones?
things, though, that's...
Dude, if you're
We gotta
dead,
nail
you're
down
dead.
these
it
drones,
is.
boys.
The biggest thing that I think is a plus out of all this is that a lot of the operators with all these gadgets are now more useful. Like,
Okay.
there's a lot more use to the gadgets instead of everything just being, a gunplay. It's like, okay, well, my Evil Eye, I could still use that. Like, that's huge. You know what I mean?
I kind of feel it's got that Apex effect or where you're dead, but yet you're still not out of the game.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what's coming into play here, and I'm not sure that that's how this game is meant to be played. To me, if you're dead, you're dead. You can't. If I'm dead, man, I can't operate anything. There's a reason for it because.
But we were already operating the cameras.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We
that's
already
true,
were
too.
doing that, were we not?
Well-
so I was with you until I kind of thought of that.
But you're
while
not
we were
driving
doing
it around after the fact. And so that brings into some confusion into play here, right?
Sure.
Because you hear, there's going to be drones driving around. Now, who's got what drone? Who's controlling what? So what they've said is now we get a drone counter on screen, or what they're testing is a drone counter on screen. So at least you know how many drones are being used by active players that haven't been eliminated from the match yet. And then the drones that are being used by players beyond the grave have a small antenna on them so you can visually, discern which one is which. But that's like, I don't know, man. I just don't understand. It's a big change for a game that's been very consistent, right?
Yeah.
So maybe, everybody hates change. So maybe we're just, we see this and we're putting up our walls, right? So we think about it. So, we'll see how the test server, test of all this works out and see what feedback they take from the players to see if they have to sort of make some sort of change to this mechanic, because there is something there. Like Nate said, there is a positive side to this, right? Those operators gadgets actually get to get used, because we've all been in those matches where sometimes you get killed before you even get to use this, one of those things, right? So it's like, it's frustrating at times, but I think it'll be interesting to see how the balance plays, because this game's all about balance, and you know, when you introduce new things, there's always changes that need to be made to find that balance. But honestly, man, I see this thing becoming a staple, man. I see them, you know, they're testing it for a reason, and if this comes into the game, I think people are just gonna have to start getting used to it and taking out more, and you know, being on the drones and being on the gadgets and stuff like that, right?
Well, even how many times do you get in a match and Buddy maybe didn't get to his controller right away because he was grabbing a drink, and then his drone's just idly sitting at the spot. Well, now he has that opportunity to push forward, and I think this game, it's really like, it's a defender-friendly game for the most part, right? Like if you're on defense and you're doing well, most of the maps are built in your favor. So I think this might sort of help balance, you know, the attacker's side a little bit.
Now let's also keep in mind that this goes to test servers first. Doesn't mean it's coming to the game, right?
It's not coming.
Maybe they get the feedback that nobody likes these changes, and they being Ubisoft, don't implement it into the game at all. This is the ideas that they're toying with and going to introduce to test servers. We'll see how well they play out, but they got a couple more changes. They're going to revamp the scoreboard. So they got scoreboard 2.0. I don't have any details on that. Corey, do you got anything on that one?
No, actually, I'm just swinging through, trying to find that spot, because there's a bunch of operator changes as well. We've made some tweaks to all different kinds of operators as we kind of go forward here with cooldowns and stuff like that. A lot of weapon balancing.
Always.
The bullet hole one's a big one.
A ton of notes.
Yes.
But I'm not seeing anything on the scoreboard here, Drew.
All right, no worries. There is the new corpse icon. No longer will the bodies just kind of linger when you're dead. Like, we've been used to that for so long. Now they're actually going to vanish. That was like going back to old days when they needed to free up the space in the game so they can progress in the game.
James Bond.
That's right, so the body would disappear. So now the body's going to disappear and leave an icon behind, letting you know who died and where they died. But yet you can't no longer sit and kind of peek and hide behind the body and shoot from them, Corey. Or bullet holes.
Hey, if you can't beat them, join them.
That's right. Bullet holes too, they've changed. We were talking with Adam before this as well. Adam mentioned it was only handguns. We'll have to look a little bit further into this as far as details go. But they're changing the fact that no longer can you take a bullet out of your handgun and shoot it and just have the bullet hole in a soft wall and be able to peek that. Now you have to actually take, like, cut out a hole or smash a hole. So they're revamping the system so it's not as cheeky as what we've seen in the past. Well, guys, that's quite the discussion on Rainbow Six. That's what I said, though. It's one of our favorite games, so there's always lots to talk about. Nate, final thoughts?
I'm actually looking forward to see how this all kind of plans out. I'm huge into the pro side, and especially with the bullet hole thing, that's going to really change the meta in the pro league side. So all in all, I'm excited but nervous. Corey, what about you?
You know, man, I feel the same way. I mean, we love this game, so whenever big changes like this happen, I know we're all really interested in hopping in. I'm excited for the new operator. I think her ability is really cool. I'm interested to see how other people use her moving forward. But again, we got lots of changes here. Some concrete, some not so much. Drew, what do you think's going to happen, man?
Oh, man, there's always changes, right? Some changes, like you say, are good. Some, maybe not so much. So, definitely a little nervous for some of these after death activities. That has me a little nervous. Besides that, though, the rest of it I think I'm pretty excited for. I'm looking forward to the new op and some of the other changes. Definitely want to know what all of you think. Hit us up at insidethegame.ca. Are you excited for these changes?